turn to Rhode Island Democratic Senator Jack Reed, member of the Armed Services Committee, and one of a handful of senators that opposed the Iraq War the first time around. Senator Reed, you've heard Marie, we've heard from the President, we've heard from Secretary of State John Kerry. There does not appear in the Senate or in the American public a desire for anything resembling an open-ended commitment, and yet we do have the humanitarian crisis, obviously, on Sinjar Mountain. We have the battle with ISIS. We have the situation in the political world of Iraq. How does America accomplish its objectives without staying for an inordinate amount of time?
Well, first, the President acted to protect American interests, particularly in Erbil. When that city was threatened, we have American diplomats there, we have other personnel there, and that was clearly to defend American interests, American lives. And then second, he recognized there was a humanitarian crisis with the people trapped and actually being attacked by the ISIL. And as a result, not only the United States, but the international community has provided humanitarian assistance. That will be, I think, rather short in duration until those people are evacuated. And the key issue is the issue of the political situation in Baghdad. And that is something that we have to respect Iraqi institutions, but we also have to make it clear our preference, and the President has done that. It is encouraging to note that they have elected a speaker and a president, and the President has call for the election of a new Prime Minister, Abadi, who is, I think, a better individual to unify the government. And the key issue in terms of the politics is the alienation of the Sunni community and the fragmentation of the country. If we put that together, if the Iraqis put it together, they're the ones who can do it, then I think we have the capability to provide limited assistance and limit our involvement over time.
Senator, let me just take you down this path. You talked about the political conversation being the most important in terms of both our role and Iraq's future. I understand your points about moving on to the next prime minister, but Nouri Maliki continues to insist he won't resign. He called the appointment of, or the nomination of a new prime minister an error, his words, not mine. He has many of the military and the security forces behind him. What do we do if he does not choose to step down? And do you think that's a possibility?
Well, Maliki is a stubborn individual, and he has been someone who has both through his overt actions, through his comments, has alienated more in the Iraqis and I think brought them together. The key issue that even within his own Shia community, there are a significant number of people calling for his resignation. Al-Sistani, who is the religious leader of the Shia, has called for his removal. The military has basically indicated in many different ways that they remain loyal to the nation, not to the individual Maliki as prime minister. These are forces that I think ultimately will lead to his recognition that he can't go on. It's not going to be smooth. It's going to be a rocky transition, but the momentum for his replacement is building, and I think that momentum will continue.
I want to step back a little bit to a broader question, which is our level of engagement going forward. I want to read to you from a Wall Street Journal op-ed this morning, and I'm quoting here: "The main U.S. strategic priority now should be rolling back and defeating ISIS so it can't establish a terrorist caliphate. A strategy merely to contain ISIS does not reduce this threat." The President has been quite clear about the limited nature of this engagement. Colleagues of yours, including Dick Durbin, the second-ranking Democrat in the Senate, has said we have to be careful about the slippery slope here. What's your view on how engaged we should be, and what should be the end goal of our involvement here?
Well, we have to first stabilize the situation, but also we have to work with and through the Iraqi security forces and in the Kurdish region with the Peshmerga. And we have to allow them, by equipment, some training, some tactical advice, the capability to go after ISIS or ISIL, and not only just keep them in the box, but gradually reclaim the country of Iraq for the Iraqi people. But that is best done, in fact, I think only can be done by effective action by Iraqi forces. There are opportunities or occasions where we might be able to assist them, but those are very limited. This has to be carried on, the battle, by the Iraqi military forces with leadership that tries to unify the country rather than divide it.
Last question, Senator Reid. Your former colleague, former New York Senator Hillary Clinton, has been vocal, including an interview with the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, that this administration did not act forcefully enough in the beginning of the Syrian uprising and now has this ISIS problem on their hands that she warned was a potential if we did not act more aggressively. Do you agree or disagree with that criticism?
Well, Secretary Clinton is a very thoughtful person. I'm sure she gave her best advice to the president, but I'm also sure he received many varieties of advice with respect to Syria. One of the issues in Syria was finding reliable forces in which you could provide weapons and training and equipment. It's still a very difficult challenge to find those reliable forces in Syria. And so I think that the president's perspective, and he's the one who's getting the information and the advice from all sorts of different quarters, was the risk of putting equipment in and seeing it fall into the wrong hands. Indeed, we just saw in Iraq where an army that we've been training for many, many years collapsed in front of ISIS, and ISIS seized the equipment. So I don't think it's as clear-cut in terms of having simply put equipment in early would have made a difference. Again, Syria, like Iraq, is a political issue ultimately, and you have to have the political cohesive forces that can use equipment properly and not misuse it.
Rhode Island Democratic Senator Jack Reed, thank you for your time.
Thank you.